such a precious honor. And I'm so thankful to you, President Reich and Dr. Quenu, the Board of Trustees members, and anybody else that had anything to do with this. So just so grateful, and it's overwhelming. And I give glory and honor to the Lord because He has brought me thus far by faith. Amen. And I'm thankful to Him. I'm also delighted today by the folk who've come to help me celebrate my twin daughters. And their daughters, Ava, raise your hand, Ava. Amen. Jamise. And I'm also happy that some of my church folk could come and join with us. Others wanted to come. Many of them are out of town this week, or they had to work, or had other commitments. But they shared their pleasure in my having received this honor. Jamila and Jamise flew in from Tallahassee, Florida, to be with me this week. So I'm very pleased also that Wheaton is marching on and providing equitable service in this era where it has been and still is increasingly clear that racism is alive, bloated, and growing. Gains that were made over the years, particularly during the civil rights era, are now being systematically attacked and dismantled. Voting rights are threatened in almost every state. Florida is telling us blacks that slavery was good for us. Gave us some needed skills. Other misinformation is fostered on school children and others, and atrocities are being cast in a favorable light. Karens have multiplied. Some police officers do treat black people stopped for traffic violations differently. Black men in particular are on guard when stopped by a police officer, which of course happens 6 to 8 times more often than when white drivers are stopped. Just last month, a 23-year-old truck driver was stopped for a missing flaps, I don't know what it was, something.
Mud flap.
A mud flap. I don't know what that is, but anyway, it didn't sound significant. And he was stopped, and he started, he said, to step outside his truck, and then he saw a dozen or more. I think he said he saw 20 officers with guns drawn. And so he thought he was going to die, so he went back into his truck and fled. He called 911, talked with them, about what was happening. And they finally caught him. He knelt down, held his hands up in surrender, and an officer sicked a dog on him anyway. This officer was fired, but not for the right reasons. I'm not going to go into that right now. But critical race theory shows us how racism underlies almost every aspect of American life. Disparities in healthcare, education, economics, housing, even religion are so embedded in our culture that often they don't even register as racist. Take the way criminals, I like this one, take the way that criminal suspects are pictured on TV, in Chicago at least. Black people, and if you watch this, black people caught in criminal activity or even suspected of criminal activity are usually pictured front on, full face. White suspects or white documented criminals are often not pictured at all, or their faces are hidden behind a cloud. This gives the impression that black people are the worst people and to be feared even if encountered in a normal place or meeting them while walking down the street. Of course there are black crooks, but I'm not convinced that they are more prolific than other racial and sinful crooks. While in America, the major dynamic racially is between blacks and whites, racial threats are also happening with various ethnic groups. Kanye West, now known as Ye or Yee, I'm not sure how you pronounce it, is a black man attacking Jews at this point. Chinese and other Asian groups are targets of hatred. Native Americans have a long history of being abused and annihilated. Then, of course, racial and ethnic feuds are taking place within various countries. You can look at the targeted immigrants that are fleeing into America now, often trying to escape some racist activity. All of this comes within the intercultural purview of Dr. Quenu.
Yes, yes.
I saw these racial disparities even 50 years ago when spending 10 months coming home from 14 months in Australia and visiting about 30 countries on 4 continents. Of course, people need Jesus. His messengers need to be equipped with the word and led by the Spirit.
Yes.
They also need to have hearts full of love for the people they're seeking to reach.
Yes.
This may mean exploring deeply what elements of America's original sin of racism exist in our hearts. Dr. Quenu and her staff can help Wheaton be a beacon in this area, showing the world that love has everything to do with it. Soon to be Dr. Crystal Cartwright, is she here? She's not here, but Dr. Crystal, she told me that she works with a group of white students on racial issues. And I say, may their tribe increase. But I want to spend the rest of my time just talking about what this honor means for me. At the dinner they had for me in February, I talked about my mother being full of love. She would say, you've got to love everybody. And so far as I could tell, she lived what she preached, in spite of the hateful experiences she endured because she was Black. I spoke of her Black father and white mother living in racist Georgia, producing my mother and my mother's sister, my aunt, and my mother with her father and sister had to flee to Montgomery, Alabama because of that interracial activity that was not accepted. Since she did not talk about these experiences, I've had to piece together some things as best I could. She rarely talked about the things that she had gone through. The best her father could do, and I know this for a fact, would be a junk man, similar to Sanford and Sons, but not that glamorous. My mother only mentioned her mother to me once and showed me her picture. I'm guessing she last saw her mother when she was about 4 or 5 years old. Mama was smart. She finished 1 year of college, and that was very advanced at that time for a Black girl. She taught students of all ages in one classroom. You've heard of those classrooms. There is a name in this event's poster, in this sign up here, that most of you have never seen before. Benella. And that was named for my father, Benny, and Ella. For a long time, I did not know the significance of the Ella, and I hated that name, Benella. It sounded crude and coarse, you know, but Benella? So I would say, Benella, Benella, to make it sound softened. That sounded more genteel and elegant to me. My mother had also named an elder sister of mine, John Ella. And so, you know, she had this, I didn't understand why she did this at that time. But when I married, I dropped Benella altogether. I went by Ruth Lewis Bentley, period. It took a long time for me to realize that Mama's naming me and my sister was her way of preserving memories of her mother, Ella. Ben in my name was for my father, whose name was Benny, and Ella I was named for her mother. And I regretted after I realized that, you know, what this meant to her. She never told me, she only mentioned her mother's name once that I can recall. But that meant a lot to her to have called me Ella, Ben Ella, and to call my sister John Ella. And so she never complained though. She just maintained her love for Jesus, love for her family, love for tone deafening, neighbors, friends, even enemies. And she just exhorted me all the time to love Jesus and to love everybody. This in spite of the racism I'm sure she endured and that I encountered as well. Today, I'm reclaiming that name in honor of my mother Pearl and grandmother Ella. It's irrelevant that Ella was a white woman because God made from one blood every nation of man to dwell on all the face of the earth. Acts 17. One blood. So, this one is for you, Mama Pearl, and for you, Grandma Ella, from your daughter and granddaughter, Ruth Benella Lewis Bentley.